Hello and welcome to the BloodStream podcast, a show serving the greater bleeding disorders community, brought to you by BloodStream Media and Believe Limited, and made possible thanks to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. I am your patient advocate and host, Patrick James Lynch.
And I am your healthcare advocate, nonprofit nerd, and your other host, Amy Board, reminding you to please speak with a healthcare professional before making any treatment decisions.
On today's show, Jeff and Barb are back. Jeff and Barb, it sounds like a sitcom, but it's a podcast segment. This time with...
They're doing our duties!
They really are. With community legend Connie Montgomery.
Legend.
Jeff, Barb, and Connie, we've got the three of them and more on today's episode. Welcome to BloodStream.
Listeners, as always, thank you for joining us today. And if you like what you hear, and you will because it's Jeff and Barb and Connie...
I mean...
Come on. Please subscribe to the BloodStream podcast wherever you listen to those casts.
I also want to remind you, dear listeners, you cast listening folks, that the BloodStream podcast is made possible by our presenting sponsor, Takeda.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right, Takeda. Mm-hmm. Takeda's got this website, bleedingdisorders.com, where you can learn all about Takeda's resources for and commitment to the bleeding disorders community. Takeda believes in a world free of bleeds.
Which is awesome.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
And they are dedicated more than ever in their efforts to offer a wide range of programs and support to help patients throughout their treatment journey, wherever on that journey they may be. You can learn more by simply visiting bleedingdisorders.com. One more time for the folks in the back, that is bleedingdisorders.com. And for their founding and ongoing support of the BloodStream podcast, I would just like to say, thanks, Takeda.
Thank you, Takeda. Hi, PJL.
Amy Board.
It's like 3 p.m. our time. I thought I'd be pooped by the time we recorded this, and I'm doing okay.
You're raging. You're doing fantastic. You've got a phenomenal T-shirt on.
Yeah, it's my Rolling Stones T-shirt that I got at a thrift store.
Oh, have you seen them in concert?
No, I'm not cool enough. My husband, Rob, has.
I know.
He went all by himself.
He did.
It was like down in San Diego, I think.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, he lived in LA. This was like before we were dating it together. Yeah, it was like his life moment.
But it wasn't before we were friends. And I was like, okay, you want to go by yourself? All right. That's cool. You don't have to invite anybody that you know who might also like to see the Living Legends play live.
It was his Eras tour. You know what I'm saying? So like...
That's fair. I'm not even going to try to touch that. But nonetheless, life goals. I want to see them play at some point.
I do too.
Get the merch. I got a Goo Goo Dolls shirt this summer.
Wait,
because I saw the Goo Goo Dolls live in Cleveland. I did.
Are you serious?
100%.
Did they do all the hits?
Of course. What else are they going to do?
Fair. I would totally go see the Goo Goo Dolls. I loved a lot of their stuff, like deep cuts of theirs.
Oh, yeah. During Black Balloon, they had black balloons out in the audience. That was a fun part.
Oh, I did not know you did that. Okay.
I'll have to wear the T-shirt next time.
Please wear the T-shirt next time.
I didn't think it was podcast appropriate until now. And I'm questioning my entire wardrobe.
Everything, like the whole thing.
Next time on BloodStream.
Next time. Y'all, before we get into Jeff and Barb, I do want to wish you, me and Patrick, happy Rare Disease Day, because it is tomorrow.
Happy Rare Disease Day.
Yeah.
It's the day of the zebra, February 28th.
Show your stripes, y'all.
That's right. There's usually like a theme somewhere. Let's see. What is the theme this year?
Yeah, there is a theme. Day. Now, if you go to rarediseaseday.org, you can get
website.
All the things, and they're so good about like social media stuff. You can download so much stuff. You can download templates. You can download little squares to put on all of your social, on your Slack at work, if you're really nerdy about it, to really show support for rare disease.
You know how many people worldwide they think are living with a rare disease?
How many?
300 million.
That's crazy, town.
That's a lot of people.
That's crazy.
See, they're rare individually, but collectively, not so rare.
Man.
More than you can imagine. I don't know if that's the theme or just what it says on the last page of this info packet that they're offering at rarediseaseday.org, but I'll tell you something. I like it. More than you can imagine. So there you go. If that wasn't the theme, now it is.
It's awesome. If you go up to resources, you can get all the social content. You can download all the stuff. They have banners. They have stuff in different languages this year, which I think is dope. They have Arabic,
that's really helpful.
Croatian?
Well, you don't speak Croatian.
I don't, but like that's such a pull. I think that's awesome.
That's such a pull. You guys know Croatian? Wow.
No,
what else
great.
can you do?
That's cool.
That is cool. All right, so rarediseaseday.org. Happy Rare Disease Day, as you said. And now we've got three of our favorite Rare Disease Day people, Jeff, Barb, and Connie Montgomery, in a conversation with each other.
Yeah.
let's get out of the way.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We're so grateful to have you come back to our podcast, Believe Limited. Jeffrey, I have another real good, close personal friend, our beautiful Connie Montgomery. And I find it interesting that just this past week, you, Jeffrey, me, Barb, and Connie all got told by three different people, "We love you, Connie." And that's because Connie is probably one of the most lovable people I've ever met.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to spend time with you, Jeffrey, today, and you, Barb Foss. It is a wonderful blessing. Very grateful for this opportunity, being that it is February, it is Black History Month, it is Heart Health Month, and it is Rare Disease Month. And in the bleeding disorders community, we know how important awareness is, so it's very important for me to mention those. I am Connie Lee Montgomery. I am a global patient advocate, and I'm involved in many, many organizations. Namely, I'm on the board of trustees for the Camden Coalition and the Center for Complex Health Needs and Social Care. I'm also a member of TEP, that is the Technical Expert Panel for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, as well as I serve with PFA Network and the patient partners out of Long Beach, California. So I keep myself pretty active and pretty busy with those roles. But mainly, what I spend most of my time living with and dealing with is having two rare disorders and three chronic disorders. The two rare, the first one is factor VII deficiency, and the second one is pemphigus vulgaris, which is autoimmune, and the three others is hypertension, diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. Now, giving you all of that information, you can imagine how complex my life is just maintaining my own health. But see, I have that, but I also have the care of three loved ones and family members that started when my mother became ill in 2020 and led to me having to take care of her, my sister Jackie, and my brother Michael. After my mother passed in 2021, that led me to having to deal with my own health care and social care needs while trying to maintain the care of then left Jackie and Michael. Michael is autistic. Jackie had two strokes in March of 2020. So my plate is full, but not by myself, I don't believe. I believe I'm one of many people that live a life like this with much on their plate. And I know in the bleeding disorders community, with all the different diagnoses, there's a lot of people that's just balancing life. They have their own livelihoods, they have the care of their loved ones, and they're trying to navigate in uncertain times the healthcare system that we have right now. So today I am very happy to be here to talk to you all about populations and individuals, peoples that have not been represented. Women and girls, number one, of course, African Americans, number two, and a lot of other folk in Hispanic and indigenous communities. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, Connie, thank you so much. You never fail to disappoint me, ever. Scripted or unscripted, speaking from the heart with intensity and actualism. So, Jeffrey, I know you've learned about recently about the disparity in primarily gender. What can you tell us that you've learned or have notes on?
So, one thing I should let people know is that I was a history major in college. I went to UCLA, and I've always relied on history to give a perspective of when we talk about different issues. So, briefly, America was started by men. It was started by white men for the most part. And it took, when women decided that they wanted the vote back in about 1850, it took 70 years until 1920 for women to get the vote. And that was only for white women, not women of color. So when I look at these statistics, there's no surprise to it in that way because men have always been favored, and they're certainly favored when it comes to medicine and care. There is a gender bias, there's no question about that. 1 in 5 women have told doctors that they feel like they're being ignored when they come in with a condition. Women have been excluded from clinical trials, which puts them at a disadvantage compared to men. They do feel they've been treated differently. And whereas there's a difference between how men and women are treated, that being white men and white women, there's even a bigger disparity between white men and women of color. So we are looking at groups that have been marginalized, and certainly in the bleeding disorder community is no exception, because this has been going on for a very long time. And although progress has been made in certain areas, we still find today, and of course, once I met Barb in 2024, I learned even a lot more about how large the disparity was. So I think today's podcast is really going to focus on, what the conditions are today, what conditions, the conditions we'd like to change, and not have statistics 5 or 10 years from now that would state, for instance, like 20% of women in this country are more, could have heart issues than men.
Well, I want to say one thing before I turn it over to Connie, because I know that this is really an area she excels at, especially in this group, and that's talking about discrimination in many forms. And I guess part of my problem was I grew up in an era where 99.9% of all physicians were male. If you have a mother who, my mother was an RN BSN. She graduated in 1949, one of the first women to get a Bachelor of Science in Nursing in this country from an amazing nursing school. She grew up in an era where you never questioned a doctor. They didn't do it at work. They didn't do it when they were in the office, and they certainly didn't want their children to do it. So being a little bit of a precocious child and having issues that I felt were important to bring up in front of a doctor, especially the issue of, I feel like I'm bleeding to death when I have my period. A big snicker, and then a male doctor would generally look down at their shoes and look up at the ceiling, anywhere to have to talk about it. Meanwhile, my mom would be kind of over in the corner. Mom would say, I told her it's part of being a woman. The doctor would verify that by saying, yeah, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Not one person ever said, how much do you think is too much? What are you using? What's happening? How about if I said, they never asked me, wearing 2 pads wrapped in toilet paper, 2 pairs of underwear, and a bathing suit bottom just to sleep in your bed and not ruin the sheets every night. That's not unusual for women. I also bled all over the place with surgeries. Some surgeries created more bleeding issues. I was given hundreds of units of blood products. Nobody once ever said, let's try to find out what's wrong with her. Part of that is the disorder I have wasn't even discovered until 5 years after I was born. So nobody was really looking for it. But now that it's out there, and now that Connie, you found out kind of a hard way too about your factor 7 deficiency, but I want you to speak to not only growing up with that, not being able to talk about it because of the culture, the Gulagichi culture, your family culture, woman of color culture, and some of the disparity that you've encountered in healthcare.
Thank you so much for that, Barb. That question and lead in as to sharing a good bit of the whole part of my story at the beginning. I think with this, you have to understand where I'm from. I'm from the southeastern part of the United States, to be exact. I do identify with the Gullah Geechee culture, and in that culture, we are the enslaved legacies of those that were forcibly brought here to America. But we kept and held tight to some of our own ways of living and some of our own practices. And with that, I'm very proud. A lot of times people would hear our language because it was a mixture of West African language, Caribbean language, and the language of where we had been placed. They said it was a broken English. but nothing could be farther from the truth. It was a combination of all of those languages that we've been exposed to. But with your own culture, right, and with your own upbringing comes your own ideals and ideologies that become a part of your intrinsic motivation for how you see and experience life. And that has been my story. In my family, I learned about my bleeding disorder in my mid 30s after a car accident and after I had delivered two children via C section and had almost bled to death. But that is because of several reasons. And one of the first reasons I'd like to share with you is because, I mean, come on, systemic racism, it is here. It has been here. Institutional and structural racism, it is in our nation, and it played a huge role in how I was brought up, not knowing or getting a formal diagnosis of a bleeding disorder until after a car wreck. Because when my mother, when I was younger, and myself, even though that was outside of everything we believed in, would try to tell healthcare practitioners that, hey, something's going on with her. Her nose is bleeding for 10 to 15 minutes. This should not be. I mean, she's having menses that last at least 8 to 10 days. This should not be. And they're horrible. And she's passing these large clots. No one was listening to that. They were being very, very dismissive and didn't care to hear it. And no further examinations or evaluations or assessments was done. But in the middle of that, I learned a lot. I learned that, okay, this is not how I want anyone else to live, right? I don't want this for anyone else. Woman, man, gender fluid individual, whatever have you. I don't want this for Black person, Hispanic person. I don't want this for anyone else. So I decided very young that I'd become a healthcare practitioner, and I did. I became an occupational therapist, but not with the struggles that ensued because of having a bleeding disorder and having it not properly diagnosed at all or having medications to treat it for years. I struggled. I missed school. I missed work. I mean, life was a battle, but I never gave up. I stayed resilient and I kept going. And I think, honestly, that is what leads me to the trajectory I'm on in this global patient advocacy work. Even though I have so many comorbidities myself at this current point, I still feel like it is very important for me to be out here sharing my story so that no other young person, older person has to deal with this. Because you see, I think discrimination can come in the form of so many ways. Ageism, it can come in the form, of course, ethnicity, it can come in the form of just so many different things. And I think when we're talking about healthcare, healthcare is a right for everyone. We can do better. We can do better. So we have to be aware of our own biases. We have to be aware of our own way that we've been reared, and giving all of that into account, listen deeply to other people when they're sharing their stories and try to be of support and help to them in their journeys. I think this is the way we move the needle forward. I think the bleeding disorders community has always been, I'll say it, the canary in the coal mine. We've always called out, right, when healthcare didn't do what healthcare was supposed to care, right? And I think that we have to continue that going forward. And the only way we can do that is to have all the voices at the table, every ethnicity represented, every gender represented, every geographic region represented, the generations represented. We all have to, because that's how we learn. We learn from each other. So I'm very excited about this podcast going forward, and particularly about women and girls. And here's why. I told you earlier, I'm a global patient advocate. Women spend 25% more years in poor health than men, an annual loss of 75 million healthy years globally. That should not be.
Connie, that reminds me of when I heard that in healthcare in the bleeding disorder, community, especially amongst the national foundations that represent us. For every dollar that's spent on male programming, males, healthcare in that community, in that sector of our community, 25 cents is spent on women. Jeffrey, you've been trying to work on some way to get more men involved, because for every man out there with the hemophilia, there's a mother that probably had it, a sister, maybe a daughter, and some have even, I've read recently, produced sons with hemophilia, because we're constantly learning about the whole, you know, gene sequencing and all of that, which I really can't speak to, but I know that it changes the way we think.
I think, from my generation pretty much on, men always felt that hemophilia was just for men. So you can say one part is just they don't have the education. One of the biggest problems for women, obviously, is menstruation. You use the word menstruation in front of men, and most men want to be, somewhere else. They don't want to think about it, hear about it, talk about it. So there are hills to climb with men, and I think they would benefit if men and women would get together and share their stories together, because I think they would bring a comforting to each other that they don't realize.
What I'd have to say about this is I can't imagine a husband to his wife, a father to his daughter, and all the other interrelations that are present from having women in your life. Women are central to so much in our society. How can we birth these sons, have these nephews, be married to these men, and they not realize or see our struggles with bleeding disorders? It's there. So we have got to do our best to keep them aware, educated, and what we're living with on the forefront. And that brings me to this thought. Collectively, I know we have a lot of different organizations that serve a lot of different people with various niches and various needs. I recognize that, and we need to keep those organizations. We really do, because they serve various individuals with specific needs that others may not be serving. So we have to realize there's a purpose, but at some point and some level, we've got to come together as a huge alliance and take our advocacy for women and for those underrepresented individuals to the states and to the Hill, to the federal government, to remind them that bleeding disorders is still very prevalent and hemophilia in this country, and we will not go backwards. We've had those that came before us work so hard to have safety laws in place for the drugs that we use. I mean, we lost a whole generation of people. There were people that worked diligently. The mother of Ryan White comes to mind, still out here on the advocacy battlefield. Val Byers, who ran NHF for years, and so many others, Dana Kuntz, and just so many others. We still have to remind people that women do have bleeding disorders, a lot of underrepresented individuals have bleeding disorders, and that we will not walk backwards. We want to keep our blood supply safe. We want to keep our medications safe. And we can do it collectively as a group. And we will also want to see our women and our girls in these clinical trials. Women and girls have to be represented so the science reflects us. So the science and the products and the policies developed reflects our needs and meet our needs. Thank you.
Absolutely, Connie. It's so every aspect of this community. I'm constantly learning, and I'll be 75 this year. By the way, 25 years passed when the first doctor who diagnosed me told me I probably wouldn't live to 50. So I'm a constant sponge of learning. You teach me a lot. Jeffrey teaches me a lot. But I think we have a duty to pay it forward and to give back to our community. It shouldn't just be the same people volunteering to take over a committee or to be on a committee or to blah, blah, blah. I could go on. A lot of times it does end up being the same people. I like this idea of a coalition of one or two people, possibly from all of the various and sundry groups that are out there representing women with bleeding disorders. And we know there's a dozen of them I can think of, there's probably more, that can get together and make decisions as a unified coalition. And they would be almost like Congress people themselves to their particular subgroup, and then get this aligned to do some national advocacy. And didn't you just send us something today, Miss Connie, that we thought was amazing?
And it's a call to action for our entire hemophilia and bleeding disorders community. Please participate in the HFA Advocacy Hub. I mean, it just came out today. It's an opportunity for you to share your story auditorily or even audio visually. It's an opportunity for you to write what's happening in your life, in your particular area or the region of the country you live in. It's an opportunity for every individual and every community member to get involved. It's the HFA Advocacy Hub. Please look it up and get involved, because we have to stay on the battlefield of sharing our stories, taking our stories to Congress, both statewide as well as federally. And even if you have the opportunity, like myself, globally, share your stories. People need to hear them, because that's the only way change occurs. And I'll tell you what, follow up with folk to make certain that change does happen.
I just wanted to quickly add, because I know we're always under a time limit, but in 2016, when I started working with the National AIDS Grove in San Francisco, besides the construction of the memorial, we were also doing a series of stories of people who had hemophilia and had either AIDS, hepatitis C, or both, either people who had survived it, people who had lost loved ones to it. And I really learned the power of telling your story and how much it makes a big difference. And I think if we can, and this is from my old days at the Committee of 10,000, if we could get in front of some Congress people that help to make decisions and policy and relate those kind of stories to them, I think that would be a big way of not only educating them, but giving them the emphasis to, create policies that would be better for everyone.
I want to make certain that do your own research, get involved, and if you're not certain where to stop, here's your call to action. Look up PRX Engage and see if they have a clinical trial that they know that someone is doing. Just reach out and let's change the numbers. Let nothing be about us without us. If you have an opportunity to get involved in clinical trials for hemophilia and rare bleeding disorders, please do so. You can look up PRX Engage and speak with their founder and CEO, Keith Berlowitz, and see if he can find you bleeding disorders and hemophilia trials.
Excellent. Well, with that in mind and our wrap up here, I can't give enough thanks to Believe Limited for hosting this for us. But most of all, thanking not just Jeffrey as my podcast partner, but Connie as our grateful love for you as our guest that everybody loves. We can't say enough. Thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Barb. And thank you, Connie, for your contributions to the BloodStream podcast today. Thanks, as always, to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. BleedingDisorders.com for more. We could not produce this show without your support, and we are grateful for it. Amy Board, our next episode comes out March 13th. March 13th, my goodness. What can listeners expect to hear?
Well, we've got another I'm Fine segment, which is fantastic. I think it's been fantastic this year. And we got a little VWD stuff. VWD is making like some waves.
I like that. VWD stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah, very official terminology, but also literally what it says in our
Literally,
script.
it just says VWD stuff.
Okay, so we got VWD stuff. That's what it says right here. And with that, that is all for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the BloodStream podcast wherever you listen to have that next episode with all that VWD stuff delivered to you the moment it goes live.
And loyal listeners, as always, email us at mailbag@bloodstreammedia.com about VWD stuff. If you have VWD stuff you would like to share on the show, now's your chance, you guys. Email us at mailbag@bloodstreammedia.com. You can inquire about casting opportunities, all the things. And please reach out on social media if you'd like to share your story or just connect. We're all there. You can find us, all the things.
For better or worse, we're all there.
So we're all there.
I'm your host, Patrick James Lynch.
And I'm your other host, Amy Board.
And until next time, take self-care of yourself. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.